Master Trainer David Harris here, and today we're going to be talking about introducing a baby puppy, a new puppy, to the leash and collar for the very first time. And I think this is a really critical, important subject because we're going to be talking more and more as we go along about the development, the character development of your puppy. And I think one of the most common mistakes people make with their puppy is having a bad experience in the very beginning with lead breaking. So the traditional method of lead breaking a puppy is to put a leash and a collar on the puppy and just start dragging it around. The problem with that is this puppy is looking at you for the very first time as a figure that's important in their life. And if they're having a traumatic experience, it is definitely going to have a long-term effect on the character of your dog, a fearful response, especially with puppies in that 6 to 8, 9-week-old range. They're part of their brain that can really latch on to fear is still developing, and you just don't want to create trauma at this age if you can avoid it. And it is very, very avoidable. The right technique here for introducing your puppy to a collar and leash is very slowly and surely progressing. So one of the things you want to do is just put the collar on and just let the puppy get used to it, walking around and feeding the puppy from your hand and letting them know that it's just not a big deal that they're having a collar on. They're going to scratch at it and roll around and act silly, and you just ignore that and just keep moving around and letting the puppy follow you and giving it food, okay? Once they're comfortable with the collar, then you can just snap a light, inexpensive leash that they can drag around to that collar and just let them drag it and step on it and tumble over it. And, you know, it's just something for them to get used to. So you're just socializing them with it. You do not want to pick it up and drag them around and try to force them to walk at this stage. So just some early socialization is going to be important, and just let the puppies get used to dragging that leash and collar around. No big deal. Once they're comfortable wearing the collar and dragging that leash around, the second step I recommend you do serves multiple purposes. But the main purpose we're at here is for the puppy to not have a bad experience with you at the other end of that leash. So my experience has been the easiest way to lead break a puppy is to tie them out. So you try to find a safe location where the puppy can't tangle and get in, some kind of a risky, dangerous situation to choke, but to tie them on their leash and just leave them alone. And they're going to buck and scream and throw a fit, and it's going to be horrific, but you're not going to be standing over the top of them while all this is going on. So you tie them out, leave them alone, let them buck and cry and scream, and 30 minutes later, an hour later, they'll calm down, and you go back and with no fanfare, just take them off the leash and have some fun. Repeat that exercise every day, multiple times a day, until the puppy is no longer fighting that. One of the concepts we talk about in our education series is what's called a self-limiting barrier, where the dog begins to realize, I just simply cannot win. I can pull all I want, but I'm not going to win. Or I can try to jump this fence, but I can't because I'm this tall and the fence is giant. So the puppies try, but they can't, so they quit. Okay? So they just give up on pulling on the leash, and they don't have a bad experience. Now, once your puppy's been tied out in one location, you want to move it to a new location and move it to a new location. Multiple locations is designed to do another part of this character development, which is it's okay to be alone. It's okay to be in a new location. We want our puppies to be loyal, and we're going to go through a process of developing loyalty with our puppies, but we also don't want them to be dependent. If a puppy becomes dependent on you, can't cope with being left alone, that's going to cause long-term problems. It's going to cause crating problems. It's going to cause problems when you have to travel. So we don't want a puppy that's dependent, falls apart psychologically when we are not there. So this early tying out into different locations is definitely going to scare the puppy. There's going to be a lot of concern in this puppy's mind that, oh my God, I'm being left and I'm out here in the wilderness. That's the way they see it. Even if you're doing a tie out in a bedroom, they still feel like they're being left. It's much, much different than being in a kennel or crated. When they're tied out, they feel exposed. So tying the puppy in multiple locations and leaving them until they calm down, and then coming back and getting them with no fanfare is really a character building exercise, and it's really important exercise to do because it's going to continue help with the lead breaking. It's going to continue on with the character development that's critical in a puppy. So stage number one, just socialize and get them used to wearing their leash and their collar. Second stage is to tie the dog out and leave him until he's comfortable there. Might be 5 minutes, might be an hour. It's hard to say. Every puppy is going to be different. But don't pay attention to the screaming, the crying, the bucking. You don't want to be a part of that. You just don't want to be involved in that reaction that the puppy's having because they associate you with that reaction. So just leave them alone. And then move them into different locations. And you're going to see that each time they go into a new location, they're going to become acclimated to that new location quicker and quicker. So it's really important. Once that you've been going through this process for 2 or 3 days or a week, simply pick up the leash and walk away and see if the puppy doesn't follow you. Now, it doesn't hurt to have some treats in your hand, but you have to be really mindful of associating treats with stress. So if the puppy is still having a really bad time on the leash and you're offering him treats, he associates those treats with the stress, the bad time of being on the leash. So let's really be careful about making that correlation. But if the puppy will come to you, listen to you when you're calling it, and take treats, then it's easy to continue on with teaching that puppy that a couple little bumps and nudges on that leash mean that he should come along with you. Okay? So we're not doing any healing at this point. These puppies are, just babies. They don't need to learn to heel. They just need to be comfortable on the leash. Okay, so those are a couple of steps that you need to go through with getting your puppy comfortable with being on the leash. The ability to tie them out has multiple purposes. It's not something we're going to do long term. We don't house dogs on a tie out. That's dangerous. But there are going to be situations where we need to tie puppies. So keep all those things in mind. Have fun training your puppy. One step leads to the next step, and we're just going to continue in this series of videos until we get to superstar status.